These are fun, off-the-cuff discussions on movies and streaming series, both new and old.
Together, we'll attempt to bridge the gap between Hollywood industry insider and the casual viewer.
This is Alec.
And I'm Ben.
And you're listening to the Cinema A to B podcast.
Hey everybody, it's another episode of Cinema A to B, the movie discussion podcast that you didn't ask for, but we're here to discuss movies and streaming shows. And Alec, today we're going to talk shop on Moneyball, written by many, but primarily credited with Mr. Aaron Sorkin, and then directed by Bennett Miller. So what are your thoughts on old Moneyball?
So right off the bat, I have an interesting thing. I am not a huge fan of most sports films. Like most typical sports films, they just don't do it for me. I didn't grow up in a sports home. My father didn't watch sports. My grandfather kind of did, or not kind of, he did, but we would see him. It wasn't like a regular thing that I would be watching sports. So just regular sports films don't interest me as much. Like I'll watch them, enjoy them, but they don't, whatever. However, on the flip side of that, sports films about like the back office, totally my thing. I really enjoy this film. Movies like Draft Day or Trouble with the Curve or whatever stuff, like kind of all the things that kind of happen around the sports team and game. That's really interesting to me, and I really enjoy those films. So I actually really do enjoy it. Now, I also really like Aaron Sorkin. I think his dialogue and his quick, that quick dialogue, that quick conversations just really work. And this one just kind of, I really like Brad Pitt. I think he's a fantastic actor, not just a pretty boy. Jonah Hill, I think, is also an excellent actor. And this was a great film for him to kind of show that he was just not for comedy, that he could actually pull down kind of that serious, more dramatic flair. This movie fun is not the right word, but it's that character development, and you're kind of, rooting for the team. It's one of those movies, kind of like the Winning Time, I already know what happens. Like this is all happened in the past, but yet the movie does enough to draw me in. And I think also like Winning Time, I really liked Winning Time, but Winning Time was so much more focused on that, some stuff on the court, but so much more of what happens off the court. And so like, that's what draws me in, is kind of these things, not just the will they or won't they at the buzzer.
I really, really enjoy this film a lot. I actually kind of regretted not going to a theater and watching this, not because there's anything on it that is like necessary for the big screen, but just because of how good and accomplished a film it is. I really kind of regretted not giving it its due in a dark theater, and then maybe a little bit of like seeing it with some other fans of, baseball. Cause my guess is if you saw this in its opening run in a theater, you're probably a fan of the game of baseball. I can't see a movie like this being drawn a lot of just general cinema goers. Yeah, the script obviously is super tight, super smart. The chemistry between Pitt and Hill is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I love those scenes where he's wheeling and dealing with other GMs for I'm going to give you this trade. I'm going to do this. Oh, by the way, I don't like my guys paying for pop anymore or soda.
Yeah.
Like you're going to cover that.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun. But then it gets really very sentimental, very kind of emotionally charged, because at the end of the day, you're right. It's not really even about baseball. This is a film about a guy trying to change how things had been done forever. And that at its core is what makes it so compelling, is all the hurdles that he has to get over in order to convince these higher ups that this is the way that baseball teams are going to be run basically from now on, especially after everybody catches on to what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, baseball was like the first sport that I fell in love with. I played from like second grade till I think 8th grade. And then baseball went on strike in 94 and there was no World Series. And I was devastated, and I kind of never forgave the game for that for a long time. And so when all this was actually happening, I think in like 2002 was when the A's were making this run, I wasn't really paying attention anymore.
Yeah.
So that kind of worked for my advantage because I went in super fresh.
Mhm.
I mean,
Not really knowing the
I
story.
didn't remember Hatterberg making the hit, any of that. So I just came in this really fresh viewing, and obviously could tell when they cut to the real footage, which I love, and they use the real play-by-play recording, and the casting outside of Pitt and Hill is really good as well. I mean, even the guy they get to play David Justice looks a lot like David Justice. That now it's interesting because that was a guy that was like big time when I was a kid. And so, by the time the movie is supposed to be taking, he's on the back end of his career. It's like,
and I love that moment that Pitt has with him too, of like, where he basically exactly what you just said. He's like, you're not that guy. Like you're not here to be that guy. I mean, like, you're here you're going to sell a couple extra tickets because you're David Justice, but you're here to help rein in these other guys, to get them on the same page of what I'm trying to do. Like you've seen it all. You know what I'm trying to do here. Get on board with this. This is probably the greatest sports numbers movie in history, where it really just focuses on the numbers and the stats and what does it all boil down to, and what does it take to make a great baseball team kind of a situation, you know?
Yeah. And if you hear yourself talking about like, this should be terrible. This should be a terrible movie. It should be like the most boring movie of all time. And for me, it's not. It's super compelling stuff.
They just do it in a way where they draw you in to be interested in why, and all the battles it takes to get other people on the same page.
The battles are what makes this so entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from the Pitt's opening kind of number, basically telling all these longtime scouts that, the way we've been doing this is like, we're not going to keep doing this anymore. And they're like, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. And the one guy just finally like lets him have it.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to fire me? And then he like curses at him. He's like, all right, now you're fired.
Yeah, exactly.
But the best interplay is between Brad Pitt and the late Philip Seymour Hoffman as Art Howe. Every time they go at it, it's just hysterical. It's like you're going to start Hattie at first today. Oh, I don't think so.
No.
Well, yeah, you are, because what's his face plays for the Phillies now.
Well, I like that he trades Pena like right in front of his face, and he's just like, hey, by the way, you're gone. You're like, goodbye.
He's got that little piece of paper too. He's like, this is blah blah blah. He'll take care of you. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. It's these moments that I really love that you don't get, a movie that's just about the game. And again, it's not that I don't like that. It's just this kind of back and forth, these deals, these trying to make it work, or try to get people on board of all the stuff that happens that we don't normally see. It's like kind of peeling back the curtain of like, this is how it really is behind, to run a team, of all the drama that you have to deal with, like all the craziness that happens, complaining about not getting free soda, or, saying that he's not going to be a catcher. Oh, one of the best interplays I love, like the quick thing is when they first go to Hatterberg's house, where it's the scout or one of the scouts and Pitt or whatever. And he's just like, you're not a catcher anymore. You're going to play first base. And he's just like, and he's like, isn't it difficult? And Pitt's like, no, it's not difficult. And the scout's like, it's incredibly difficult. Just like, the salesman, and like, no, don't listen to him. It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah. And Chris Pratt doesn't do any Chris Pratt things in this.
No,
he completely plays this straight down the line. There's nothing humorous about his performance at all. He's kind of deer in the headlights for a lot of it. I love the exchange with him and David Justice, like in that team kitchen. And he's like, David Justice is like eating cereal. Yeah. And he's like, what keeps you awake at night? He's like, line drive hit to first. And he's like, no, really, what keeps you up? No, really, it's scary. And he's like, all right, well, good luck with that. Good talk. Yeah, the movie's got a lot of really humorous moments. It's very light. But then I love the dynamic with Pitt kind of trying to continue to build this relationship with his daughter in spite of their divorce. By the way, like, I freaking love Oh, what's his face? The film director that cameos in this. It's Robin Wright's husband. It's like the stepdad.
Yeah.
It's Spike Jonze. That's the film director, Spike Jonze, that plays her husband. And he's like real mousy. He's like, yeah, we saw we saw you guys playing the other night. You looked real good. Like everything looked good. Yeah, that's Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze also is plays in Three Kings with Wahlberg and Clooney.
Funny.
But yeah, Jonze is a very accomplished film director and music video director. He also has a great cameo in Wolf of Wall Street as the real low end stock broker scene. Yeah, he's great. He pops up now and again because he's friends with all these other film directors and they love just putting him in as little cameos because he's actually a pretty decent actor.
There's a lot of good interplay, but going back to Pitt's kind of character, I love it kind of that he talks about the David and Goliath story of like, I love that the opening sequence tells you like, here's the Yankees, or here's the Oakland A's. This is their budget, like 39 million. And then it's like, here's the Yankees, like 110 million or something at the time. It's just dwarfs, the size, three times higher than what they can field. And they're going kind of toe to toe. And it's kind of his wrestling with all this, but then also kind of at the end when he gets that offer from the Boston Red Sox and Jonah Hill's like, this would make you the highest paid GM of any sport. Like hands down. And he doesn't take it because in the end he wants to, he says he wants to win with the A's. But I think a lot of it too is his kind of the relationship that he's building with his daughter of like she's in some formative years right now. And like, I want to be there with him. And he's kind of weighing all the things because I love the fact that I think it's the last scene or whatever, is when he's driving his truck and he's listening to the tape that his daughter made. And it's kind of this like, yeah, he's not going to win with the A's, or he's always going to be the underdog, but he's got his priorities. He knows what he wants out of life.
Well, he has that really poignant moment with Hill where he's like, it's after they've broken the American League record for consecutive games won. And Hill's like, you broke the record. And he's like, I'm not in it for records. I'm not in it for rings. He's like, I want to change the game. And so he was successful in changing the game of baseball. So if that was the goal he set out,
then he won.
Then he accomplished it. And yeah, he even tells the guy with the Red Sox, like, why did you take this meeting? He's like, it was really out of respect because it's the Red Sox. But yeah, the Red Sox ended up initially being the biggest winner for sabermetrics is really what Moneyball is. But yeah, leave it to Sorkin and that other team of writers to make this compelling. What's the director's name? Is it Bennett?
Bennett Miller. He hasn't.
Yeah, he directed Capote because he worked with Hoffman before, but he hasn't made a movie in like 10 years. Since Foxcatcher. And this got a lot of nominations. It just didn't. I was kind of disappointed that year this didn't win anything. I think it was 6 nominations and it didn't go home with anything.
It's one of those things of kind of like sci-fi movies, comedies, and sports movies don't win Oscars because, well, the Academy thinks they're easier to do or easier to make or not worthwhile. And dramas do it all. And again, we've already talked about my feelings on that process because it's a bunch of just crap.
Yeah. By the way, they didn't have the money to shoot in a bunch of major league ballparks, so they dressed Dodger Stadium up like 8 different times.
That makes sense.
I think they shot some in Oakland too for the actual for the A's, but the rest of it they just tweaked Dodger Stadium to make it look.
Why not?
Which works fine. I mean, I couldn't tell. And I've been to Dodger. You and I have been to Dodger Stadium plenty of times, but
plenty of times.
Yeah,
that all you can eat Pavillion
ticket. Oh yeah, I wonder if they even still have that. So for our listeners, there's an incredible thing. If somebody's listening from LA, we want to know if you still can go to the right field all you can eat Pavillion and spend Was it 30 or $35 for a ticket?
Yeah, it was like $30. Yeah. I think.
Of course, this is like 12 years ago, but you could spend $35.
It's like 15 years ago. It was like 07.
No, not the Dodger. The Dodger games were later. That was like 2011.
No, because I did it when I still was like had just moved out. One of my first. I think maybe that was I went with Preston and not with you. Oh. No, you were there. So that anyways, it doesn't matter. 2007, 2008.
Yeah, but if there was $35, you could go into the right field pavilion, and that was the only place you had access to in the park. They basically locked you in there, but it was a ticket, and then all you could eat Dodger dogs and hot popcorn, and maybe nachos. Yeah, popcorn, peanuts, and soft drinks, and you just watch people come in there with backpacks and like load them up with like 50 Dodger dogs walking out of that stadium to feed their families for like the next month, because they just freeze those things. By the way, the Dodger dog is not a good ballpark hot dog at all.
No.
In fact, it's one of the worst I think I've ever had. And I like the Dodgers, but their hot dogs are dreadful.
Or at least definitely in the all you can eat pavilion. So much of this movie does right that you kind of get, like, you talk about the seamless edit, or not the seamless edit, but like the invisible edit where you don't really notice the editing. And like, I feel like this definitely does that here, but there's so much that like, there's no huge, great speech, right? That you're like, oh my goodness, look at that writing, right? It's all just small moments or tender moments, but like, it's nothing too big, too pronounced that's going to make you like super drawn to it. And the character arcs or whatever are not like, it's just everything done really well, but not either over the top or not like, it's definitely not the best, but it's, it's in that upper echelons. It's just doesn't rise above a lot of stuff. Like it's not, I'm not trying to say it's not memorable, but it's not pull you in and like burn this into your mind of like this quote or this moment or whatever. It's just a good film from start to finish. And you walk out and like, wow, that was solid.
Yeah, this isn't like one of the greatest films ever, but I don't think the subject matter was really going to ever allow it to rise to that level. But it is expertly crafted, and you have high level crew at every key position, from the writing, the directing, and then the director of photography. He's not working anymore as a director of photography, but it's Wally Pfister. It was Nolan's old cinematographer that shot Inception and The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises and The Prestige and all these films. Is one of the last movies he ever DP'd. He did Moneyball, and then he did Dark Knight Rises in 2012, and then it's basically he's done, because he tried to transition into directing, which it's not really gone that well. But Wally was like as good as there was operating in Hollywood, right there with Deakins. And I was always a big believer that the script didn't have to be the greatest thing ever. It had to be very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that I'm much more apt to prefer to watch a film well made.
Yeah.
That kind of operates within its limitations and is just extremely well executed. I don't think I did enough of that in film school. I was always trying to figure out some sort of crazy concept, story, or script idea that I could never really figure out or get off the ground, that I wasn't really willing to take something more simple that was solid and then try to execute it at a really high level. It took me a long time to realize that that's
more important.
It's not, it is, because that's kind of how you hone your craft. Like if you're just constantly waiting for this like amazing concept to land at your feet, like you're not going to end up working on anything. You're not going to end up doing anything. This is a very good script, excellent script. But at the end of the day, it's guys trying to operate baseball with statistics differently than anybody ever has before. That only is so compelling. Like, but I think they get everything out of it they possibly could.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about this movie so much. The performances are tremendous. It's one of the last movies you get with Hoffman. He doesn't make too many more after this. And he's not the main guy, but he's great.
He does such a wonderful job.
He had such range.
He did.
I mean, he did. He had incredible range for him to be able to play Dusty and Twister, and then Capote, and then this, and Almost Famous, and then a great villain in Mission Impossible 3.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I miss that guy.
Yeah.
And The Master was one of his last. Like, he's a great addition to this because, the interplay between him and Pitt as Beane and them just going at it. It's funny. It's compelling. It's just, and then Hal gets all the credit. When they win all the games, they're like, Art Howe's doing an incredible job managing a hodgepodge, ragtag crew of players that nobody thought could.
But again, and that's what the Brad Pitt's character, kind of like what you were saying, is like, that's not, he doesn't care about that, like that.
No,
and one of the things, I think one of his statements is, he's like, they're rooting for us now, but when we lose that next game or whatever, it's all going to come lean down. If we don't win it all, it's not going to matter. And that was kind of
the last game.
The last game is what matters. It's not, this is great, but we lose that last game. This is all for naught, kind of a situation. But
what's cool is the executive or the owner, basically, for the Red Sox really does give him a lot of encouragement, because he's like, if somebody's not running their baseball team the way you are, in 5 years, they're going to be dead. There'll be dinosaurs. And then he's like, hey, the guy first through the wall is always the ones that gets bloodied. And it's like, I mean, I think he took satisfaction in that. Like, really being the first. He didn't come up with this system, but he was the first to implement it, to have the guts to implement it with Hill's character, which is a kind of an amalgamation as well. Like, that's a little fuzzier. I think Hill's character might be.
There's a couple people I think it was.
Yeah, I think there's a couple people that it's kind of a melding of, and then I really like this. I really like the flashback stuff of Beane's own wrestling with just not being good enough, and kind of the regret of like not going to college and kind of maybe taking the road less traveled.
It comes with a very tender moment too between Pitt and Hill, when you've seen these flashbacks of kind of, I think at this point, like, we've seen the flashbacks of him going to the majors, failing, and now back in the minors, and kind of doing this bounce back and forth. And he asks Hill, he's just like, where would you have drafted me, or would you have drafted me, or whatever, and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, man, you're a good player, and stuff like that. He's no, like, seriously. And he's like, no, like 7th round or something, like some like insignificant round, much later round, like would not have, no signing bonus, no guarantees, nothing like that. And he's just, and it realizes that, and that's kind of like a little bit of freedom for Brad Pitt's character to be like, I didn't like, I was not right for baseball. Like, baseball promised me things, but Major League Baseball was not what I was good. I was not one of these guys, or whatever.
Well, and it kind of reassured him his faith in Hill's character, that he like knew how to evaluate a baseball player too. Yeah. Peter Brand, where the value was. This definitely puts kind of the mystique back in baseball a little bit on its evolution. And
the only part I really don't like is that the Oakland A's owner is Bobby Kotick, who recently, for a very long time, was the CEO of Activision Blizzard. When we're so happy he's gone. Thank you, Microsoft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Oakland A's owner, when he goes up and asks for more money or whatever, that's Bobby Kotick. Yep. So.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. So.
Is it a cameo or like what?
Yeah. I don't really know why he was there. I just know that. Because it's only like that one scene
in the movie.
So like, when he goes up and he has that little meeting or whatever, and he's just like, we need more money. And he's just like, no, I can't give you more money. But then he's never like, he's talked again, but only via phone. We never see him again. It's just that one little scene with, and if I remember correctly, that one little scene with Pitt near the beginning, right after he loses to the Yankees. And then he loses Giambi and all the other players.
He's uncredited as shot.
Oh, is he? Yeah, but that's Bobby Kotick. I know Bobby Kotick, unfortunately.
Interesting.
So,
Spike Jonze is uncredited in this as well as Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love his character in Wolf of Wall Street, though. You brought it up where he's just like, if you can sell, 1,000 shares,
Yeah.
just, and then he goes on and he just absolutely destroys it. And they're all like jaws to the floor, like, what just happened?
Yeah. When are we going to do Wolf of Wall Street?
At some point. I don't like, there's definitely a lot of Scorsese movies that we need to do. And that's one of them, but I don't know if that's the next one we do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, because I think we have to talk about Killers pretty soon.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But so that's Moneyball. No,
it is Moneyball. Yeah,
that is Moneyball.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's a numbers game, and as my buddy always says, it's all about the numbers.
Well, I wraps up the discussion of Moneyball with Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill. You're right. That opened the door for Jonah Hill and some dramatic. His pivot. This is his pivot movie. Probably should have mentioned that, but
he does a fantastic job. Like he definitely earns that dramatic role because there's not a super funny moment in it that he really plays for comedic effect. Like all the funny things he does are very much what the character would do. He's not trying to play to the audience or insert funny stuff, but yeah, he gets it. Like that moment where he's just like.
Oh yeah, I love the
yeah.
I'm glad you did it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good.
We thank everybody for listening in to another episode. We will be back on next Monday. Those episodes drop on the podcast and 2 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. Go ahead and hop over to YouTube, look up Cinema A to B if you haven't, and subscribe. We haven't had a ask for subscribers in a while. We just took a break on that, but then we're not YouTubers either. I want to emphasize this. We do the podcast, we have fun, we extend it over to YouTube, but hop on over there, give us a like, subscribe. We just look forward to bringing more stuff on here. Hopefully get another series here soon.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I need to get watched that Alec's waiting on me for. So I'll get that taken care of and we can get some more streaming shows discussed instead of just feature films. So.
But you and I are the older generation, buddy. Like, when we sit down, we're going to go watch a movie because that's like, what we grew up watching. And we don't have time to watch 10 hours of television where some people are like, well, I can watch a 30-minute episode. I don't want to watch a 2.5-hour movie, but I can watch a 30-minute episode, but then they watch 6 of those episodes.
That's what I never understand. That's what I think I think the excuse is dreadful of not being able to sit in a theater for 2 hours. But you can binge the entire first 4 seasons of Stranger Things all in one sitting.
Doesn't make sense. But anyways, that's beside the point.
All right.
We'll get a couple things.
Yep. All right, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.